Hello and welcome to Rock Jams. I hope you enjoy this video. Click on the links below to get some great deals on t-shirts. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
If you were a kid in Seattle growing up, you didn't have a hope of ever being a famous musician. We didn't know any. I'd never heard of any. And it wasn't until I was in my first band that I realized then, kind of in the moment, probably in the first week, and this is what I want to do.
My stepdad said, okay, if you can learn every chord in this book, and he thumps down this tome of guitar chords, like, boom, you can learn every chord in there, I'll get you a guitar. So I did. I sat there with that neck. No strings, nothing, just a guitar neck, and learned every chord possible out of that book. Finally, I got a guitar.
I was drawn to drumming as my first instrument. And then when I became 15, 16 in high school, I started playing guitar. It's the best way that I can express myself musically, and I think that's a really important thing that I'll always hold on to, is just that form of expression, But I think from that I'm trying to be a better songwriter, and I do that through guitar and keyboards. So I'm trying to develop other areas of my musicianship, but I'll always come back to the drums as my main gig. I mean, that's how I make my living.
At a young age, I'd have strong emotive responses to pop songs that my parents thought was really strange. Like a certain song would come on the radio and I might start crying. Another song would come on the radio and I'd start, laughing or getting more excitable. And they thought it was a little bit strange, but my mom was a music teacher. She played piano, and I think she certainly had an appreciation for that aspect of music.
For us, Super Unknown was that moment where we were a band that had been together since 1984, and even though we hadn't released records until 87, something like that, we had written a lot of songs and we'd recorded a lot of demos, and we were at a point where I think with Bad Motor Finger we had kind of made a defining album for that early period Soundgarden thing, and none of us really wanted to repeat it. And I also think that for keeping us interested, we needed to somewhat reinvent ourselves. And we didn't sit and have a band meeting and talk about reinventing ourselves. We just started doing different things.
We had already had a pretty strong confidence in our abilities in the studio. Every album we've made, we had a familiarity and a love for the material. Now we were excited to hear it for the first time on record, because the material had not garnered any response from peers from live performances. So we're taking a bigger risk. We have to trust our own judgment, the judgment of friends who've heard demos.
It was partly we have to create something special that is going to live up to what we have now created for ourselves. We raised the bar, but also there was an interest thing. We wanted to stay as interested and inspired about growing as we had the day we started as a band. And it's also this thing where someone brings in a song that's unlike anything you've done. It's like this amazing gift. It's your band. It's going to be your record, And we were all doing that at that time.
It's funny, all these years too, speaking of how a song works, gets from stage to stage, it took me until we reunited to find out that Kim wrote Super Unknown with Chris. I thought that was just a Chris riff. I never paid attention. I was just blaring guitars. All right, let's play,
We didn't know how to approach recording a song like Suicide, for example, or Black Hole Sun, or Half. None of it was like anything we'd ever done, so it was kind of all experimentation. I think that we had to kind of bind together more as a band and come together more as a band and really try a lot of stuff and really sort of squeeze more out of who we were as a group.
There are a few novel tunings on that record, but I think there may have been new tunings for our, on every record. I mean, new for ourselves, because everybody in the band writes on guitar. Everyone's introduced different tunings. I think probably when I introduced the drop D to the band, back in the mid-'80s, it kind of opened up a whole sort of Pandora's box, where people were like, well, what if we tried this and that? So alternate tunings can be a challenge, but they're there to be a benefit and facilitate certain playing and writing techniques.
I kind of came up with my own tuning, which was C, G, D, C, G, where the top E goes down to C, A goes down to G.
Well, I don't know about the other guys, but like Head Down, the song I wrote for that, is I had this mic sound. I was sitting there with my old L50, arch top Gibson. I had the headphones on and my little 4-track, and I'm like, God, that sounds great. The sound right now is perfect. So I just hit play and record and made up the song right on the spot. Words, everything. And then I overdubbed some horrible drums on it that you can hear me like set the headphones down and go, what? And then I keep drumming. So when we did a Head Down, everyone liked the charm of those. Matt and some other friends said, Ben, you drum like someone falling down the stairs or something, It's like, because it was so off rhythm. So we tried to emulate that in the studio with Greg Keplinger, me, and Matt playing drums. There's 3 drum tracks on that.
Well, it's cool because Ben Shepherd is really into Charles Mingus and, certain jazz bass players that I completely revere. So it's nice to have that, compatibility with your band member. Even if you're not playing that kind of music, it's nice to draw inspiration from it.
In order to become better acquainted with our material, we'd rehearse all the time, practice, play live, and that was the buzz we generated, was from peers and friends who liked hearing the new songs or the new stuff we were coming up with. And for the first 3 albums, that's kind of what we did. We recorded material that was well tested live, and we'd gotten pretty good with it. But it was strange having to record it because it required a different focus and a sort of domestication of the material, which live, it was spontaneous and wild and often drunken.
If I'm feeling like I had a great show, there might not be that might not be the same feeling from one of my bandmates. I still just revel in that feeling. And it's hit or miss with 4 or 5 guys in a band. It's not always going to line up. But when it does and everyone's like in the mode, in the zone, it's pretty great. I mean, I think that's why we still do it.
Sometimes it's just go right now, or sometimes we all work on it together. Or like on King Animal, Chris took some parts from rehearsals and worked out new stuff and actually made songs out of them. That wasn't like that back in Super Unknown, though. We all just were in the same integral room, or basically just all together. And then we go home, and then come back with new ideas for each song or whatever. But it's pretty much, the chemistry of the band is still the same, and we're still like finding new ways to bamboozle each other into doing songs or not.
Understanding and appreciation for any particular piece of music, or in general or specific, will change over time. And it's not I don't think it'd be accurate to suggest that the music has done that transformation. It hasn't changed. Has it changed something new? Perhaps, but there are other things that are acting upon you which will change how that music acts upon you. Does that make sense?
I never set out to have a career, per se. I mean, I set out to play music that I was proud of and that I felt connected to. And luckily, I was able to make a living at it.
Being in Soundgarden too is a challenge in that each of the 4 of us have very distinct feels, and they're unlike each other. And if I have to learn a song that Ben wrote or that Kim wrote or Matt did apart, it's always a challenge. We each have our own sense of rhythm, and that to this day is one of the bigger challenges of the band.
people I played with, it just didn't click so immediately and satisfactorily as it did with Chris and Hero. It was unbelievable.
I think I always had like just an internal need to express myself, and I found that I could do it through music.
It's all a total blast, a total blessing to get to do this. It's the time when our band, when it's our world, and I love that feeling. It's like writing, I don't know how to describe it. It's just one of my favorite things.
We were always trying to create music and write songs, that were timeless. But you can never guarantee that that's going to happen. I think everyone kind of thinks it will happen while they're writing songs and making records. And the idea that it has aged so well and still sounds vital to me is like one of the most important things to me, I think, as a band member of Soundgarden, as a songwriter, and just as one of these four guys. Like, we really created some piece of music that I think will be around for a really long time.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?